Hi, my name is Brianna Lafferty, and I had a near-death experience in 2017. I was very sick. I had already been sick with a chronic illness for 16 years. I had been medicating for those 16 years in different ways. I called out to the only God I knew that existed or might exist and said, I can't do this anymore. So I surrendered completely with my soul, my heart, and my body. And then I heard this big booming voice say, "Are you ready?" I realized something had answered my prayer. And so, yes, I'm ready. Ready for what? I don't know, but I'm ready. And so I felt 3 hard pounds on my chest. And just like that, my heart had stopped and I was separated from my body. I'm immediately in this black, velvety void, just full of love and energy. And I'm with the creator or God or source or the universe, whatever your beliefs, you know, have you believe is the creator, where we're come from, who created us, where we're from. And I get this question like, for a second, am I dead? I then go through this beautiful, vibrant blue tunnel filled with ones and zeros. I'm going at it like supersonic speed, and I'm being downloaded with information and binary code. And I just knew that it would be the code that I would need sometime later, which I didn't understand the concept of later because there was no concept of time. I then end up in a white room. I call it a room, but it has no doors, no windows, no walls, no floors. So it's this space. And there's this great master teacher behind me. And I relate this master teacher to the likeness of Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, the master teachers. And in front of me is a big pile of numbers. And I realize the universe is created in math. And I pick up these numbers and throw it up like I'm a little child, just no wonder you love creating. And I realize that the universe is created in math and code and programs. And I don't know why I found that so exciting, but I really did. I then end up in a space with other beings. And the reason I say beings instead of humans is because I have no idea if they're ever human. I didn't remember that I was ever a human. But there are other souls existing in this same space, the same dimension with me, next to me, experiencing things with me. I see some sliding down these beautiful trees covered in snow. Like, I don't think I like snow. And instantly it's turned to lush green, and I'm sliding down the trees next to these other beings, realizing they might be sliding down snow, even though I see green, that we could have these different experiences simultaneously together. We also danced, and we danced together as if we'd been choreographing these movements for millennium. No one spoke, but no one needed to. Thought instantly happened. Everyone was one. Everyone moved as one, communicated as one. You could hear without speaking, and you can talk without listening. And it was just absolutely amazing. It was more than telepathy. You think of telepathy as having a thought, someone reading it, then sending it back, and you reading that thought. But it was so instantaneous that telepathy really isn't really the right word. There was also a time where I tried to learn to fly, and I was awful at it. I ended up hitting a pole and severing my arm, and there's no pain. So I was just curious, like, oh, what's gonna happen? And I see my arm regrow in ones and zeros, in code, in program. And this place was just filled with curiosity and joy and love. And it was a place of learning and experiencing, and there was no judgment, there was no anger, there was no fear, there was no pain. So you know, when I lost my arm for a second, it wasn't scary. It was just like, oh, huh, that's interesting. And then watching it grow back was absolutely fascinating. This is the area I spent the most amount of my experience in. Like I said, there's no time, so I can't really say how much time I spent in there. And this is in another place that felt like a room with 7 magnificent, powerful entities. I still don't know exactly who they are. I haven't really heard any similar stories. I've got some ideas, but it's 6.5 years later and I'm still trying to find out who these powerful beings were. But in front of me, there's this beautiful scroll that's unrolled and beautiful floating golden script being written out in front of me. And I know it's something huge, it's something important. And that's when my ego came back. And so this whole time in my experience, I was separate from my ego. Well, in this last area, unfolding probably the wisdom of the centuries, you know, the wisdom of the universe, my ego comes back and says, ha, you're showing this to a human. And just like that, the scroll rolled up and I was snapped back into my body. And 8 minutes later, I felt my heart start again. But it felt like I had been gone from my body for so long. I didn't know exactly what happened or where I went. I was just positive if I opened my eyes, I was going to be buried and I was going to have to figure out how to climb out of a coffin, out of the ground. I thought it had been weeks or months. So in my pre-birth plan, I chose a very hard life of chronic illness, depression, paranormal craziness for 16, 17 years before my near-death experience. Why do we choose such horrific things? It's purely for learning. So the people who have had some of the hardest battles become the strongest healers. Soul contracts are created mostly by your individual soul. We do also travel with soul clusters and people we will sign contracts with. So my mom and I have this conversation because she suffered a lot watching me suffer as a child and her being a mother who couldn't, you know, do much to comfort her own child. And since then, we've realized that we signed this contract together, that we would be on this journey together. She would play the role as my mother, my advocate, my warrior, and I would play the role as the chronic ill child. So, you know, I made the contract of what I would experience, but I also made it with her. And she made her own contract that, you know, she was going to experience, she was going to have her own soul education and growth through the experiences I had.